What's up, guys? Finally got some Overwatch 2 details to talk about. It's been like 2 years since we've heard anything of substance about this game, and they dropped a big one on us. They dropped a 3-hour live stream discussion with gameplay. I watched the entire thing, so I've got the condensed version for you right here. We're going to go over the high notes. I'm going to link the entire live stream down below if you want to check that out. But here are the high notes if you don't want to watch all 3 hours of that. So, overall impressions, dude, it looks good. It really does look good. All of the significant changes I agree with. I think they're going to be great for the game. It's going to shake the game up a little bit. I'm sure some of the off-tank players and some of the, guys that really liked the nitty-gritty 6v6, like getting into the weeds kind of stuff, I'm sure they might not like it as much right away, but I think even they will eventually come around to why these changes are good for the game as a whole. I think everything that they've done here is good for the game as a whole. I'm sure some of the guys playing at the very tip-top ranks won't like that there's less potential team play because you're just eliminating a player, and we'll get to that in a minute. But overall, everything's pretty great. So one big detail I missed with Overwatch 2 is that if you own Overwatch 1, you will have Overwatch 2 PvP. Overwatch 1 will essentially be converted into Overwatch 2 when Overwatch 2 comes out. You just won't have access to the PvE part if you don't pay for it. So with Overwatch 1 being one of the highest selling games of all time, you probably have Overwatch 2 when it comes out. So lucky you probably already have it. So that's fun. So let's talk about the things I liked from the live stream, just the broad strokes here. So the art style, they've changed up the art style a little bit. Some of the default skins are different, like Genji and Reaper. They've got a different look to them. The maps have a little bit of a different style, a little bit of a different twist. The engine has changed slightly. So everything kind of got a slight remix. Nothing like dramatically changed, but everything got a slight tweak with the engine upgrade. And it looks good, dude. It really does look good. They knocked it out of the park. Absolutely fantastic. The new maps look great. They all look great. Aesthetically, the lanes and the game, like from what I could tell from the way they were laid out, they look good. Looks great. I honestly want to see what the old maps look like. I'm curious if any of the old maps got a facelift with the engine upgrades. So that'd be neat to see. The UI. Great. I mean, dude, they really nailed it with the UI. I like the new look. All the new little widgets and gadgets, like the Zenyatta UI in particular. The Zenyatta UI in Overwatch 1 is a little brutal. You've got the things you've got the Discord orb information over to the right. It just looks clunky and bad. This new UI for Zenyatta looks fantastic. They went out of their way to design different UI widgets for each specific character if the character needed it. Great. Another really underrated thing that a lot of people don't actively perceive is the sound. The sound in Overwatch 1 was great. The sound in Overwatch 2 is fantastic, particularly with the guns. The guns and the weapons sound great. The pulse rifles have a new remixed sound. Sounds great, dude. It sounds like a fucking pulse rifle. Like, it doesn't, it sounds so much better than what we have in Overwatch 1. And I don't think Overwatch 1 sounds bad. It just sounds punchy and satisfying to shoot. Like, they really nailed it. And even the gun, like Reaper's gun is just like bam, bam. Widowmaker's gun really sounds like a sniper rifle. You've got the guns sound differently in different areas. So if you're inside, it'll echo a little bit. Dude, it's good. The push game mode. Now, I haven't had a chance to play it, obviously, but it looks fun. It looks like it looks kind of like a King of the Hill map that moves. That's kind of what it seems like. Seems like that'll be fun. They've changed up some of the default character skins. They seem pretty good. I like them. I'm curious if we'll have access to the old legacy skins or not, though, or if those are just going away entirely for these new ones. I'm curious how the old skins are going to be affected, right? Are the old skins just going to be a one-to-one transfer? They're going to look the exact same? Or, yeah, I'm curious how that's going to work, but we'll see. All right, now let's get to the big change, the game-defining change in Overwatch 2, which is the game going from 6v6 to 5v5. Now, for you guys that probably don't play Overwatch, you might not think that's that big of a deal, but for you guys that do, you know that's a huge deal. And who's getting cut? And when the game, you're losing a player, which role is getting cut? It's going 1 tank, 2 supports, 2 DPS. Overwatch, I think this is going to be great for the game. Overwatch has a real tank shortage, and honestly, dude, 2 tanks in Overwatch, when you really think about it, it's kind of annoying. I am so for this 1 tank change because a lot of the 2 tanks, when it's just Ryan Zarya all day and everything is just like press W and you just get rolled over sometimes, it's really not a ton of fun. And a lot of the DPS characters aren't as fraggy and cool when it's 2 tanks because there's just so much shielding and so much I don't know, there's so much shit in the way that I think this 1 tank will be fun. I really do think it'll be a lot of fun. And also, it's going to help with queue times because tanks people don't like playing tanks for the most part. And it allows them to make tanks really powerful. So tanks, I think they're going to make the tank role. I almost think that tanks might turn into DPS right now. Because right now, DPS queues are pretty long. From what I've seen of the tanks in the Overwatch 2 gameplay, it might be hard to get a tank queue. So that looks fun. For example, like the Zarya changes, the double bubbling. Reinhardt can cancel his pin, so he can use his pin his charge mobility, and then cancel it in 180 shatter. Zarya can double bubble herself 2 times in a row if she wants to, or double bubble of nanoed Genji. Dude, it's gonna be crazy. I think this is gonna really allow DPS to get a little bit more fraggy and flanky and make bigger plays and have more impact. And that's another thing that's going to happen with 5v5 is that it's 1 less player. So that means you as an individual can have more impact on a game, which I think everybody wants. Overwatch can be a little frustrating because there's just flat out times where you do everything you can do in a game, and sometimes it just doesn't come together, right? It happens. I mean, there's always ways you can improve, but I'm sure a lot of you guys have played a game where you're like, dude, I played my ass off. I did it all right, and it just didn't happen for me. And that happens in every game. It's going to happen with 5 players too, but it's going to happen less. And I think with 1 tank, I can't really put my finger on why I think it's going to happen. I guess just because there's less shielding and less like run over potential with 1 tank versus 2. I think it's gonna let the game have more individual impact when there's 1 tank instead of 2, because 2 tanks, man, if you're going against a good Ryan Zarya or a good 2 tank setup is really oppressive for anybody. Even if the rest of their team is garbage, but the 2 tanks are coordinated, it can be rough. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. I think that the 5v5 in terms of individual impact will be great. It's going to give teams more space to just do stuff. You're not going to have to worry about a Roadhog hook and a whatever and shielding from Orisa. You're not going to have to worry about getting halted by Orisa and then the hook coming in. A lot of the tanks have a ton of CC. I feel like it's just gonna open the game up. It's gonna let people freestyle in Overwatch a bit more and not be so deathball-y. Because Overwatch, in a lot of contexts, is very much hey dude, just stay with your team. Just sit there and we're all gonna be in a big ball and just shoot the other ball, and then one of the balls is gonna win. And I think a lot of that comes down to 2 tanks and comes down to the tanks being really good and the tanks really kind of just being the powerhouses of both teams. So I do think you're going to see a lot more crazy shit in Overwatch 2. So, speaking of tanks, dude, tanks I think are going to be a lot more fun to play too. I also think the tanks, not only are the DPS going to be able to freestyle more, I think the tanks are going to be able to freestyle more. Because they're giving tanks crazy shit. Winston now has a ranged alternate fire where he just charges up his lightning gun and just shoots that bitch. And what this is going to allow for is more Winston burst combos. So not only are you going to be able to jump on somebody's face, hit them with that damage from the jump, you could theoretically jump at somebody, charge your lightning gun, hit them with the lightning gun, start charging your lightning gun again, and then hit the ground, hit them with the lightning again. Then, you can do a lot of burst combos with that lightning gun now. So that's going to be pretty cool. Reinhardt, we talked about him earlier, how he can cancel his charge. So, a Reinhardt going for a pin in Overwatch 1 is pretty risky because you're essentially animation locked. If you go for that pin and you miss, you're going until you stop. In Overwatch 2, you can cancel that. So what does that mean? Well, obviously, that means Reinhardt can use his charge for mobility. Well, what are the ramifications of that? Sure, you can get out of spawn faster. You can do some advanced tech around a map. Swing around a corner real quick, something like that, right? But here's just a very obvious play that he could do. He could charge through the enemy line, cancel his charge 180, and shatter. He could, shatter, do a charge through the enemy line, 180 shatter. Like, you're going to be seeing tons of stuff like that. They're giving Reinhardt 2 Fire Strikes. So Fire Strike just has 2 charges. Zarya, we talked about Zarya with the double bubbles. That's going to be crazy. They showed some Zarya gameplay on the stream, and the Zarya was just at like full charge the entire time. I'm sure some of this stuff will have to be balanced, but I like that, dude. Like, that's just a good, solid change. Like, Zarya being able to choose to bubble herself twice or her teammates twice or 1 and 1. That's just more freedom for the tank. Like, that's just a good change through and through. And that would be super overpowered in a 2-tank world, but in a 1-tank world, you can make the tanks fucking crazy. Who gives a damn? There's only one of them. So I'm all for the tanks being crazy. Another pretty significant change, and I think some players might not like this, but I think this is probably good for the game. Movement acceleration has been turned down slightly. So the one thing with Overwatch is that like AD spam is crazy. So if you're facing a really good opponent in Overwatch that is intentionally trying not to get shot, which is a skill. I'm not gonna say that's not a real skill. It absolutely is a skill when there's people that know how to randomize their strafing and jump and crouch and know how to do that really well. So I don't want to. I understand why people might get annoyed that this is being nerfed because it is a true skill. But dude, in Overwatch it can be a little crazy, man. Like, I've seen Annas aim their gun in the sky to make their hitbox as like wavy and weird as possible, and it is really hard to hit people. And I'm a fairly decent shot. Like, I'm not the greatest, but like, damn, it can be rough. So I'm kind of okay with that movement acceleration being nerfed, and the nerf to 80 spam. Another pretty significant change is that shooting tanks will generate less ult. This is another way the tanks are getting buffed. So a tank like Roadhog will be much less of an ult battery. I don't know how much less shooting tanks will generate ult, but apparently it's very significant. From what they were saying on the live stream and from what players have been saying, ultimates come up far less. Like, there are far less ultimates coming out because a lot of your ultimates being charged come off of just, random poke damage hitting tanks. And when that generates less ultimate, there are just less ultimates going out. And also there's 1 tank instead of 2, so there's 1 less big target to hit, which I think is going to be good for the game, because sometimes the ults, the frequency of the ults can be very annoying, because a lot of the times 1 ult can turn a team fight if it's like a Junkrat tire or something, and it's like, oh great, this fight we got the tire, all right, let's run back for next fight. Oh, they got grav. Oh great. Okay, let's go back for next fight. Oh, they got shatter. I'm kind of okay with there being less ultimates coming out. Next pretty significant change, we've got DPS move faster than healers. So I'm sure this is not the case for every healer. Like, I'm sure Lucio with the speed boost is going to be fast as fuck. But they have the ability to change movement speed for individual heroes, and I guess they're going to start experimenting with that. They showed a clip of Genji, for example, running faster than Mercy. I think right now in Overwatch, outside of like specific effects like Lucio speed boost, all of the characters have the same movement speed. And it appears that they are going to be experimenting with that. I don't know if they're going to do it specifically by role, meaning that, DPS will have a movement speed, healers will have a movement speed, and, tanks will have a movement speed. Or if they're going to go hero by hero, I have no idea. But that's kind of exciting. Less homogenization, and I'm kind of for it. And the way they justified it was they don't want healers being able to, like, endlessly LOS like a DPS. They gave a Reaper example, for example. Reaper chasing a Zenyatta around a corner, and how a Zenyatta can essentially just endlessly ring around the Rosium. That will not be the case in Overwatch 2, because the Reaper will just eventually catch up due to the increased movement speed. And I think I'm alright with that. Tanks as a class will take less knockbacks. Reinhardt already has this, but I guess with it being 1 tank in the future, they're just going to give this to everybody. And another pretty significant change is that all healers will get automatic health regen after a period of time. And Mercy, since she already has this, will have more than other healers. So she'll just have more HP regen over time. And this is a great change because, dude, when you're like, You gotta keep in mind, for you guys that do play Overwatch fairly seriously and play like in real team comps with like, your Ana has a Mercy with you, for example, to heal that little poke damage. A lot of times people are playing Overwatch in quick play or whatever, or no limits, or they're playing Overwatch casually and they're the only healer and they want to play Ana and they take some chip damage, and it's like, do I nade myself? This is a good change. This is a solid change. I don't think it's Call of Duty-fy. It's not codifying Overwatch. I think this is a pretty solid change. That's not going to make the game worse. It's just going to make the game better at the lower levels when things are a little bit more hectic. I think it'll be all right. So overall, dude, I think everything, literally every single change, I think is good. Like, there's not a single change on here I think is bad. I think it's going to be good for the game. I'm really excited for 5v5. I'm really excited for one tank. For multiple reasons. One, I'm just sick of 2 tanks, dude. When it's like Orisa, Sigma, and you want to play like a DPS, it just makes you want to fucking die. It really does. Like, I'm so over that shit. I'm so over the barrier spam. I'm so over Ryan Zarya just W keying into your comp and it just being like, just annoying. It's just really annoying sometimes when there's 2 tanks that are carrying on the enemy team, or even on your team. When you just W key through a team, it's just like, fuck. So I really think the 5v5 will let there be, it'll let people branch out of the death ball a little bit and not be so much of a liability, because a lot of the times when people freestyle, I mean, you'll see it in highlight reels, somebody will go for a flank, somebody will go for, that crazy play. Usually it doesn't work out. Honestly, it's a crazy play when it does work out because it's not typical. A lot of the times, that's the high-risk, low win percentage play that the mathematicians would tell you is not a good idea. So I'm excited to see the game give you a little bit more freedom, give you, loosen up that leash a little bit. So let me know what you guys think of Overwatch 2. Will it bring you back? I think Overwatch 2 is going to bring quite a few people back to the game. Like, I think it's going to be good for the Overwatch game in general. First of all, because so many people already have the game, dude. Like, you probably already own Overwatch 1. You probably just haven't played it in a while because it got stale. I don't blame you. I'm looking forward to the new heroes they put out. Like, there's going to be new heroes, apparently. Maybe like 4 or 5 of them from what the rumors have been. That'll be sick, dude. Like, fuck yeah, dude. That'll be really fucking cool. So, it's going to bring me back, dude. I'm excited as fuck. Who knows when it's coming out? It's probably going to be a while, because Blizzard likes to take their sweet time. But from what I've seen, dude, I don't know. Overwatch is pretty solid. It's a pretty solid game. I know people like to meme on it. But in terms of value, dude, I paid $40 for this game, 4 years ago? I paid $40 for it 4 years ago? That's a pretty good deal. Come on. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.